What are some of the most mind-boggling coincidences in history?
Which submission did you agree with the most? Let us know in the comments.
That if you analyze a very large crowd of humans, to a scale that they can be thought of like particles, their movement will resemble the laws of fluid dynamics.
Is that really a coincidence? Or does that just naturally happen to anyone or anything for the most part due to physics?
Co**in**ci**dense. Koins at DNS. Noun. 1. A remarkable concurrence of events or circumstances without apparent causal connection. I think it fits.
Indeed. Fluid mechanics are used to simulate humans evacuating buildings, etc.
Cousin Eddie just walking along the side of the hallway and slowly spinning in circles, as if nothing important is going on.
https://youtube.be/uyovo6pplfs?t=$7.8. Like this.
Corn is amazing. Best damn example you could give.
So that's how Asimov got the inspiration for the Psychohistory, on the Foundation series then.
Elton John randomly being paired up with songwriter Bernie Taupin.
For those wondering. In 1967, Bernie answered an advert in the UK music paper New Musical Express by Liberty Records, a company needing new songwriters. At the same time, Elton responded to the same advert, and the duo were put together.
For about 2 years I worked at a place that, among other things, sold lottery tickets. One of my co-workers had a habit. Every Friday when our side of the business closed, he would walk into the store side and buy 2 40-ounce steel reserves and 2 scratcher lotto tickets. I would hang around until the boss could hand me my paycheck, usually watching my co-worker scratch those tickets. Sometimes he'd break even, sometimes he'd make a few dollars, but usually it was a waste. Since this was 20 years ago, I don't remember the exact number of instances, but at least 8, 9, maybe 10 times, someone else would be scratching tickets next to him and would win something decent. Sometimes it was a few hundred, a few times it was 4 figures, and one time it was a scratcher jackpot. The look on this poor bastard's face when he realized he was 1 ticket away from winning. And it just kept happening. You could say that he maximized his chances by continually playing, but you have to admit it's a hell of a coincidence that he always missed the winners by a single place in line.
Were you ever tempted to buy tickets right after he made his purchase?
I wasn't old enough at the time. I was 14. But yes. 2 identical twin brothers died on the same day, in the exact same way, only hours apart without the other. Both were ran over by a truck while bicycling over a road, the same road. I can't remember a lot more of the details, but it happened in Finland, in my hometown I think 20 years ago. I think you can find more about it online. That's just unbelievable.
Mendel discovered genetics, outlined in a letter to Darwin that Darwin never read.
I don't know how factual it is, but the supposed similarities of the murders of JFK and Lincoln are pretty freaky.
Hey there, if you see a red subscribe button under this video, please BOOP it.
I checked, it turns out the numbers that line up aren't that statistically improbable, and much of the list is deliberately written to make things sound more similar than they are, and some of it is just made up. So, some coincidences exist, but if you look really hard, you could probably find just as many similarities between any other 2 presidents, although none as shocking as the main thing Lincoln and Kennedy have in common.
When filming The Wizard of Oz, Frank Morgan reached into the pocket of the thrift jacket he was wearing for Professor Marvel and pulled out the pockets to find that the coat had previously been owned by L. Frank Baum, author of The Wizard of Oz. This story obviously might be a publicity legend, but those involved swear to it, and Baum did live close enough to the studio in his later life.
A young man was hit and killed by a taxi driver as he was riding his moped. A year to the day later, the young man's brother dies the same way on the same moped, by the same driver at the same spot of the previous accident. Later, I found out in both accidents, the taxi driver had the same passenger.
Tamerlane's curse was always pretty interesting. On June 19, 1941, anthropologists sent by Stalin found Tamerlane's grave. When they opened his tomb, they found an inscription that said, "Whoever opens my tomb, shall unleash an invader, even more terrible than myself. They removed his body and took it back to Moscow for research. 3 days later, Hitler launched his attack on Russia. In November of 1942, Tamerlane's body was returned back to his grave and resealed. A few weeks later, the Soviets were able to win at Stalingrad and began the process of turning the tide of the war. The FBI agent in charge of the Al-Qaeda and bin Laden investigations in the 1990s, John O'Neill, grew frustrated with the lack of progress the FBI was making, and he butted heads constantly with others in government. He also had some personal issues that were becoming problems. In August 2001 he retired from the FBI and took a position as Director for Security at the World Trade Center. He started his new job on August 23, 2001. He died in the attacks. I remember reading about him in the book The Looming Tower, which is excellent.
The Lincoln-Kennedy parallels. Half are not true, but the half that are still pretty crazy. https://en.m.wiki.org/wiki/Lincoln%(e2%(80%) 93 Kennedy_coincidences_urban_legend.
911 was the emergency number of the U.S. since a long ago. I was born on September 11th. The day of cinema. I was into movies since I was a kid and always dreamed about surviving a catastrophe like in movies, not knowing that I was born on such a day. I remember the incident of the WTC on my birthday. I survived it. And whatever happened about the 9/11 attacks afterwards seriously influenced my life and what I went through. This is one from personal point of view. There are many more coincidences that will blow your mind. One of them is Operation Argo, or for example the MKUltra program. How COVID got the world involved or things you see in the Simpsons family are truly haunting.
What are you talking about?
Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me, what did your brain voices say?
This sounds interesting. Now put it into a cohesive thought and try again, please. I'd honestly love to know more. Go ahead and elaborate a bit.
The Endurance was found at the bottom of the Weddell Sea 100 years to the day after Ernest Shackleton, the Endurance's captain, was buried, March 5, 1922 and March 5, 2022. Also how Wilmer McLean left his house in Manassas at the start of the American Civil War to get away from it. He moved to Appomattox, where Lee eventually surrendered. He is quoted as saying that the war started in his backyard and ended in his parlor.
Lou Gehrig died of Lou Gehrig's disease.
If his mom had just named him something different. It was between that and Alzheimer's.
Tommy John was the first person to get Tommy John surgery. You're gonna make that same stupid joke every time that comes up? TS.
Hit the like button, please. I crave fake internet points.
Sill, chuckles.
Gehrig, how did I get it? Doctor, you must have caught it from someone. Gehrig, who? Doctor.
You gonna make that same stupid joke every time this comes up?
How Boney M's rapper Bobby Farrell died in the same place and on the same date that Rasputin died on.
I'm sitting on my couch with a bass watching TV right now, and I was playing that song right before scrolling down to this post. Dude.
Blyat.
Rah-rah.
At the beginning of the PC game Deus Ex, one can see the skyline of New York City and the Twin Towers are noticeably absent. This was apparently due to memory constraints at the time, but the eerie part. The game was released on June 23, 2000, more than a year before the attack on and subsequent fall of the Twin Towers.
Look up the pilot episode of the TV show The Lone Gunman.
That's pretty eerie.
See also Urban Strike for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, which features a level that takes place in New York City, involving a terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. The game takes place in 2001. It was released in 1994.
To be fair, the WTC was bombed in 1993, they could have drawn inspiration from that.
Me being born on the 6th of the 606.
Have you checked you're not the Antichrist?
People born in 2006 are just little babies that can't be posting on the internet, right? Right. Where has all the time gone?